Disclaimer. The following is not a personal attack on any individuals referenced in the video, nor should it be an invitation to harass anyone in the video. I feel like this should be obvious and not have to be stated, but it does.
About a year ago, I made a video on the manga series Gunsmith Cats, where I discussed the uncomfortable relationship between two of its main cast members, a teenage girl and a nearly 30-year-old man, and how I would change it to make it more digestible to a wider audience. I thought that it would make for an interesting video considering that Japanese media seems to have a lot of accessibility issues for Westerners, with the pedophilic undertones found in a lot of their comics and cartoons being one of the largest stumbling blocks. In response, I received 2 comments insulting me, one criticizing my use of the word problematic, which felt pedantic, and the other referring to me as a tourist. I'd never seen that term used in this particular context, so I had to look it up. I couldn't find a consistent definition on any of the different forums that I checked, but a common thread was that tourists were people who only took a surface-level interest in the manga anime medium, which couldn't apply to me since I'd read the entire series and did an in-depth analysis of it. So the only options were that this person either didn't watch the video and was being pedantic over my word choices, or they were defending the relationship between an adult and an underage girl, albeit a fictional one. Not a good look either way. At the time I scoffed, God forbid people feel uncomfortable with pedophilia, and I brushed it off. However, I was never fully able to get that out of my head, and as I've continued my activity on this channel, and dive further into anime and VTubing culture, I couldn't help but notice how prevalent Lolicon defense is. If you clicked on this, it's safe to assume that you already know what a Lolicon is. I'm not exactly revealing the Pentagon Papers when I say that Lolicons are people who feel an intense attraction to prepubescent characters, or characters that appear prepubescent but aren't. The 1,000-year-old dragon defense, you've heard this before, it's pedophilia with extra steps. Originally I thought they had a clear understanding of what Lolicon was, but it turns out that it wasn't always exclusive to degenerate behavior. In the beginning, Lolicon used to refer to cute girl characters and was used a bit interchangeably with Bishoujo, or beautiful girl characters. Characters that people would never consider lolly today, such as Hayao Miyazaki's Nausicaa, were labeled as one. However, none of that matters anymore, because it's pretty obvious that when people refer to the phrase today, they're talking exclusively about our current definition. And even looking at the deeper history of lolly content, there's been sexual connotations for most of its existence. At one point, lolicon was code word for manga anime sex. And, when I searched for lolicon on Google, this was the first result. So it's safe to say that lolicon almost exclusively refers to the sexualization of fictional minors. Like it or not, this is the current cultural view. Before delving further into my discussion, I want to make clear that I'm not going to go in depth on the legality of the subject. I'm not well versed in the legal background of this topic, although I do know that non-otaku politicians in Japan seem firmly against it.
And you sort of got a chance to peek at the thinking of a lot of the policymakers. You know, normal, non-manga anime fan, older Japanese. One of the politicians said, why are we even talking about making an exception for this? We know what it is, right? Look at the image drawn on the page. Look at the image on the screen. We know what that is. There's only one way to interpret it. There's only one way to look at it. And it is, in fact, perverse. It is, in fact, pedophilic. It is, in fact, indexing or speaking to a predatory desire.
I'm also not going to discuss the potential harm that lolly content could pose to its consumers or real-life minors. That goes far beyond the scope of this video, and I personally feel is self-evident. If you do want to know about the potential harm this kind of content could cause, I'm going to link a graduate thesis on the topic from Fordham University in the description. Be warned, it's 48 pages not counting the title pages and bibliography, so you'll need to dedicate some serious reading time if you're interested. Moving on. There are many problems with the lolicon discussion online, but I want to break down a few that make the discussion difficult for me. The first is that no one can actually agree on what a lolly character is. When I hear that term, I think of a little kid character like Kana from Dragon Maid, but someone else might think of a teenage character like Megumin from Konosuba, or even an adult character like Tatsumaki from One Punch Man. I've seen some people say that Freerun is a lolly, which is just bizarre. As you can probably tell, none of these characters look the same, so it's hard to start a dialogue when no one can agree where the starting point is. Another problem is that anime is known for having notoriously rushed productions. Many people suffer severe depressive episodes due to the time crunch involved and are horribly underpaid. It's a common trend for televised anime to approve a subpar release because they could just fix it later for the Blu-ray. Who cares? The otaku will buy it, right? This can lead to shows having a generic look where you need to spell out the character's age to the audience. A great example of this is the show Real Life, where the lead character is a guy in his late 20s who takes a pill that makes him look 17 again. However, he has to explicitly state, "Whoa, my skin is so clear now and I look so much younger," because he looks the exact same as he did in the previous scene. Add on that many anime leave the age of its characters ambiguous and employ similar design choices such as large hair, big eyes, and round heads, and it creates more questions for the audience to discern. Because of this, people try to create excuses for their degeneracy by distorting the anime characteristics I mentioned above. They'll say things like their physical appearance doesn't matter because the character is actually 1,000 years old, so it's okay to be physically attracted to them. Or that we don't know their canon age, but they look old enough for their liking, so that makes being attracted to them okay. Or they'll make real-life comparisons to petite women and say that adults are attracted to them, so it's okay for them to be attracted to the lolly characters.
See, you like that short, small-chested woman, so it's okay for me to be attracted to this childlike character. It's no different.
Except there's a clear difference between a petite woman and an underage girl. I'm friends with several women who could be described as petite, and they look nothing like children. If you can't find any differences between these two images, I don't know how to help you. I think you're just lost in the sauce. VTubing is another area that seems to attract a lot of lolicons, as a lot of VTubers like to lean into the lolly aesthetic. And it's really creepy. It'd be one thing if they just like cute character designs, but they almost always play with the sexual fantasy stuff for their viewers. Be it roleplay while doing their child voices,
I'm the thickest lolly VTuber on Twitch.tv.
or teasing the audience by exposing different parts of their avatar and acting embarrassed about it.
Go! Oh wait, it does. Ah!
If my mouse isn't working all of a sudden.
No! No! No!
At least amongst the popular examples. Even if it's not explicit or lewd, they often lean into fan service to appeal to their audience.
Meow. Tell me. Tell me on day one. What in the world? Tell me Antos for free?
Plausible deniability gets brought up, but it's pretty obvious they're trying to get their viewers horny with the
I look like a child, but I'm super fan-servicey thing.
It feels like they're trying to appeal to the base urges of the creeps in their audience. It's like they're going out and yelling,
I'm Mr. Meeseeks! Look at me!
It reminds me of the ironic racism thing that people do online.
I'm saying racist stuff, but it's okay because I'm being ironic about it. It won't normalize this behavior to my viewers.
Or they'll say it's satire when called out by their viewers when they don't actually understand satire. Also, to be clear, I know that this isn't the only VTuber archetype. The long list of thick-thighed, large-breasted female characters in the VTuber scene makes that obvious. There's also VTubers that fit into the lolly archetype who don't do lewd content. However, their audience still chooses to sexualize them anyway.
There were some funny comments. But then there are also some comments being like,
I'm also aware that some VTubers choose small, flat-chested character models because they're short and modestly endowed in real life. Nothing wrong with wanting your virtual body to represent your real one. My own avatar matches my IRL body type. But that often becomes a cheap excuse to carry out creepy behavior. I've only ever seen this point brought up when the VTuber in question is obviously lolly baiting, and it just leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth. Usually the taste of vomit. To be clear, I'm not a lawmaker. I can't censor the type of stories people are allowed to tell, or the roleplay that people can do online. But there are ways to do it without it feeling exploitative or fetishistic. You can tell a story about a young girl beginning puberty and discovering her sexuality, and do it tastefully, but more often than not, it feels like it's being done to titillate the viewers, which is where it becomes uncomfortable and disturbing. I should point out that I'm aware of Shotokan, which is equally bad, but more often than not, male nudity in anime is used as a joke, while female nudity is done for fan service. There's a big difference between Kid Goku getting naked and making people around him embarrassed or uncomfortable,
Dude, put that thing away! They're like children here!
and the numerous shower or hot spring scenes with a female character getting walked in on or perved on for comedy. And when the character being used for fan service is portrayed as being in kindergarten, then we need to take a massive step back and say, I don't think this is okay. To be clear, I don't think that there's anything wrong with people being platonically attracted to small, cute anime characters. In the same way that I don't think there's anything wrong with people finding small animals cute. Just don't try to give the dog your bone, if you get me. Maybe we can reach a compromise between myself and the Lolicons. Can you just admit that it's weird? I can't stop you from liking what you like, but can you at least admit that it's f***ing weird? Can you meet me halfway? Yeah, probably not. Anyway, I have a Mal page linked in my channel bio if anyone wants to try and gotcha me, so go ahead and check that out.